one of the biggest challenges that we've heard from yourselves and also some of the people we've been speaking to in product is this kind of challenge around working in a business that isn't product led and trying to rally stakeholders within that environment.
I think talking around customer centricity and product centricity in the org is really important. So changing the conversation and making sure that the voice of the customer is something that everybody is asked to represent. So doing brown bag lunches, trying to talk around the personas of the customers and to not over science, sort of create science around it, but just bring that customer to life and making sure that people really understand the problem that we're trying to solve day to day with the product set that we have.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a complex problem and a big challenge, like we've said. So I think particularly your point around championing the voice of the customer and using that as a platform to get buy-in from stakeholders can be really powerful. I guess it's interesting, maybe Srin, from your perspective, a slightly different challenge coming from Airbnb, which was more of a product-led business.
I guess a lot of like time and effort did go into sort of advocating within other functions and other product teams as to why the work that my team did was important and why it was necessary and why it drives relevance to not just like the bottom line of the business, but to the brand and a whole bunch of wider issues. Like, there were parts of times where I do like a little kind of like newsletter update to other folks in the product function to talk about what we were doing. And I was very big on like having my team or having other sort of my peers talk to some of the users who worked on or who used some of the bits of the product that we did, just to create that proximity. Because I think the other thing when you operate at sort of Airbnb size scale is that very quickly people in product or just generally people in the company can lose touch with that end user. Like there's so many layers of like spreadsheets and data tools and other bits of like or just other layers that kind of remove from that direct feedback from users. So I was also just very keen and very proactive in trying to get users kind of in the office talking about their experiences with the product, just to humanize everything. At Airbnb, we were like, my team in particular, we worked closely with, the sales team here is your supply acquisition team. So with some of those leads, we used to actually try and bring them into sort of the product development process, and they could see that, like, sort of see behind sort of the curtain, like the amount of iteration that goes on, the amount of like throwing away designs that goes on, the amount of like feedback loops that need to happen before actually a line of code is ever written. And we did find actually as sort of one of the best ways to kind of align product and sales is to actually try and bring them closely to where reasonably possible, like bring them actually into the product development process, and they can sort of see that it's not just a come up with an idea and start coding it and boom, there it is. That it's creative, it's iterative, and often involves failure.
What we're really talking about is it's not about being product led or sales led or anything led. Actually, the only thing that really matters is actually how do you get the customer's point of view into those teams and build around that first and foremost. And as long as there's sort of the right sort of understanding it, from where that growth comes from making sure we solve the customer problem or something around that nature, that everything else is kind of flexible actually. So whether it's product led or sales led, it tends to be more of a go-to-market thing. As soon as you get disintermediated from the customer and you start building things that you think they want rather than knowing what they want, that's when all the risk can sort of turn up. So my role in all of this is around making sure that we have a very strong sort of user advocacy, user research sort of piece in it, and every decision that the organization is making related to not only product but also strategy, go to market, it comes from a place of actually creating data and evidence to say this is what the customer wants and this is why our hypothesized solution or whatever we're experimenting with, why we're thinking that's the best way to go forward at any point in time. One of the ways which we're still figuring out how to do it is making sure that there's just a real openness to everything that we're doing. So whenever a product team is working on an initiative, I ask them to put together a sort of a group of product champions, so someone representing each different department. So every department has a voice. So then the idea is that champion can represent the needs of customer success and marketing and sales and research and what we do. Then what we're also doing is a number of workshops. So sometimes we'll do a deep dive workshop with sales with an idea. So, you know, we've got different sales teams who are selling into different areas of the market. They're all going to have a different point of view. So let's do workshops to make sure we're getting all those different ideas out. And then the other thing we're introducing just now is whenever we're kind of getting up to sort of exec level presentations, the product lead effectively doing one-to-ones with each different representative of the executive team, so they can also then have the exec opinion put into it. And then, okay, it sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but ultimately it helps everyone to go together, and it gets any false assumptions or misunderstandings of what someone thinks they need out in the open, so that when a recommendation or decision is put forward, everyone's on the same page. It's just much easier.